Cut.
I look like Mickey Mouse.
Let me see.
Oh, I didn't mind looking.
All right.
I think you have the smallest head.
Are we good?
Least amount of hair.
That one?
I think so.
At least you got it. All right. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're going to do our first episode of our podcast called Legally Exhausted. I got Neil Armstrong with me, no relation. That is his real name, no relation to the astronaut. I got Ian Broudy with me. And then I'm Abe Ovadia from Ovadia Law Group. And we wanted to talk to you guys today. We have a lot of technology in our law office that's allowed us to scale and grow. Everybody asks me, Abe, how are you able to do it? How are you able to do it? I tell people it's my beautiful wife. It's the great people around me. It's Ian and Neil helping me grow with the IT.
The man behind the man.
There it is.
There you go. So sorry, honey. So it's a lot of the technology that we have in the office. I talk to other lawyers, especially older lawyers, younger lawyers, doesn't really matter, but the older lawyers are ridiculous with the technology that they use. So we wanted to do a simple podcast, just go through some things. We're going to talk about our old phone system and what we have now, and then we're going to talk about our case management software, what we had before, what we have now. I think it'll be really good, and we'll start off just talking about our phone systems first. What we used to use was called the PBX phone system. It was just that traditional phone. It was voice over internet, but they connected to a PBX system.
Yeah,
which
it
was
on-premise PBX system that we had the hardware for in our office.
Yeah.
We were limited to only using the phones in our office.
Yeah. And when we opened the Miami office, so the Miami, our main office is Boca. The Miami office in Doral was our second office. It was a pain in the butt to really open Miami because of the phones. We had to have the phone guy, Mike, who we love. Hey, Mike, when can you come by to install these phones? Man, we need a PBX installed. There's like ancient stuff that you can only get at a certain store that only Mike knows about. And right, so talk about that.
Yeah, it was on-premise hardware. We had to have a VPN to connect the two offices just to route the phone calls once we started the second office in Miami.
Okay, and then so now we have a Fort Myers office, but lucky for us, we have Streams. So the old stuff was trash. It's just antiquated. It's voice over internet, and it was really tough.
Not.
The old stuff was not voice over internet?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's all hardwired.
Oh,
That's why you had to be in the office to use it.
Oh, so we needed VPNs. Okay, that makes sense. But so now we got this great thing. I guess it's called a
Unified communication system.
Wow, that sounds really impressive.
Fancy words.
I call it Streams. So the name of the company, I mean, it's not an ad. They're not paying us for this. I should clarify. If you want more,
I don't think anyone would pay for this.
no one would pay for this. True. So it's Pantera is the company. I told the guy what a horrible name. I said, "Oh, the rock band, right, from the '80s, '90s.
Yeah.
They're still around, I think." And he's like, "No, Pan means all. Terra means earth." And I'm like, "That's ridiculous. No one cares."
What does this
about
have to do
Latin.
with phones?
Yeah. What does this have to do with Earth? Yeah, exactly. So then the product that they have, though, that we use is Streams. That's their unified communication software, whatever. Ian here calls it Streamers. It sounds just like Teams, which is Microsoft Teams, but I think Streams came out first. I don't know. They did come out first. They should sue Microsoft. Don't sue me, sue Microsoft. So anyways, Streams is really cool. We got an app on our phone. So we have regular phones, right? Just like the old phones didn't work, but we had to get new phones. They were actually cheaper.
IP phones, yeah.
IP phones, they were cheaper than the other phones. They're about the same price.
But they're not required.
They're not required.
optional.
You could do it from a web browser,
Soft phone.
soft phone. And then I have this app on my phone. You just download it from, it's called Streams. You just download it straight from, the Apple Store, Droid Store, whatever it's called. And we can chat with everybody in the office. You could do group chats. And the thing I like about it the most is that once somebody leaves, Neil is our IT administrator.
That works.
IT administrator. And just the office manager emails or texts Neil, "Hey, we're, firing so-and-so quit." He pushes a button on his end and they're locked out of the app. They can't open the app. So all those text messages where we talk trash about people, where we talk trash about clients or whatever we talk about on there, people's personal data, clients' phone numbers, clients' names, social securities, their medical records, if they're in that software, completely blocked out. That's what we love about it. That's what I like about it the most is once they're gone, they're gone. I don't have to worry about them calling old clients, especially if we disgruntled employee or something like that. And just if they're no longer an employee, I don't want them to have people's information, So that's what I like about it. We went with Streams because they offer phone, text messaging, and so we can inter-office text message, and we can also text message clients. So they think that it's the employee's cell phone. Some clients are texting the employees late at night, thinking like, "Oh, this is their cell phone," and it's on their cell phone. It's an app, or they could access it through the web browser, but it's not. So it's perfect, and they have voicemail. And the thing I also like about it is it records calls.
Yep, every call is recorded.
Yeah, so it can record calls. You have the option of recording incoming only, outbound only, stuff like that. So we like that it records calls. And the fax, which Neil, if it was up to him, would kill the fax.
Yes.
The fax machines. Yeah, and so it's not an actual fax machine, right? It's all e-fax. But we used to use Grasshopper. Grasshopper has their own phone system and faxing, but they don't have text messaging and they don't have the ability to record any calls. So I like Streams. Streams does have its downfalls though, right? I mean, like I said, they're not paying us, so we could talk shit all day about them. But it's not perfect, right? Sometimes the phone systems go down.
I mean, that's the downside of any cloud service. Anytime there's an issue with the data center or internet, you're gonna run into issues.
Yeah. So
it's out of our hands at that point.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as like, I remember when we were on the old phone system and the power would go out in the building or the internet would go out in the building and there's no calls coming in and everybody's sitting here like, what do we do?
Right.
So for that, we ended up getting a backup internet line. We have 2 internet lines in all of our offices in case one internet goes down. Hopefully the other one's up.
Failover WAN.
What's that?
Failover WAN.
What?
Never mind.
What does that mean?
That's the term for having 2 internets that
Fail-safe.
back up each other.
This is what happens when you do a podcast with 2 certified nerds. It's the most craziest. I don't know what you guys are talking about. And you know what's really crazy? Is this like Revenge of the Nerds? They both got hot girls. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like Revenge of the Nerds too. But anyways, so I'm a big nerd myself. What am I talking about? Talk to my wife. She'll be like, he's a big dork. What else? Screen share has been really helpful with Streams. They have their own built-in screen share app,
Yep.
right?
Just like you would see like in Zoom, you can do video meetings and show your screen.
What's that thing Chad always uses that you had to block him from using? Chad. Before we started the podcast, we said we were going to call Dennis a different name, like Chad. He just looks like a Chad.
I think the screen sharing has been huge for like even the COVID era, right? Where everybody's going to work from home.
Yeah.
You know, how much easier and smooth it's been for all of the employees to go work from home, use Streams for all of their communications rather than, you know, these hard lines that we used to use before we went to the soft phone. So
Yeah. Is he mic'd up okay, Dennis? Because he seemed like he was
cutting in and out.
We just got to put that a little closer to you there.
a little bit closer.
Don't be afraid.
That's better. Yeah, don't be
Okay.
afraid. It's just a giant phallic symbol. Don't worry. Okay. So, yeah, the screen share is a definite plus. Another thing that we like besides the screen share, what's that Google product that you liked?
Google
for screen
Meet?
share? Google Teams.
Google Hangouts.
No.
Microsoft Teams.
No. You were using with your guys in Colombia. You were using the screen share.
it
with
Google Meet?
It was Google something, and it was
Probably
pissing Neil
Google-
off.
probably Google
Neil's like, we
Hangouts.
already pay for Streams, screen share. Why are we using this other
Definitely
product?
Microsoft
Google
Teams.
Meet.
Google Meet.
Google Meet. It was Google
Microsoft
Meet.
Teams, the reason was because of the audio share. So when I'm watching something, I can say they can hear my screen. Streams doesn't do that.
This is probably great for the podcast. We're all just looking off and
Yeah.
we hear nothing.
Pros and cons, yeah.
We're hearing nothing.
I was told
Chad isn't saying much, guys. Don't worry. It's not important.
Cut this
So-
part out.
Cut Chad.
So yeah, we'll cut Chad. So Neil, besides the screen share, which is fantastic, the other thing that I like a lot is reports.
Yes.
So they have analytics, they have reports, they have data that we can use. So my favorite part when employees come to me and they're like, hey, I need a raise. I've been working really hard and I'm doing a great job for you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I go to SalesForce, which we'll talk about in a little. I look at the dashboards and I can compare their work product to people in their department. But with Streams, I can see how long they're on the phone. So it's the funniest thing. The case managers in my personal injury department that bring in the most amount of money are what? On the phone way more time than the other case managers who bring in less money for the firm. So it's really easy to just see the data instead of, somebody, employees always do this. They dress up really nice. They come by. They're like, hey, I've been working so hard. They butter you up with like sweets because they know I'm a fat kid. So they bring me like little treats and stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, you're really nice. You got a great personality. We get along really well. But let's look at the data and see really where your shortcomings are. And if you're doing great, you're doing great. But if there's shortcomings, we always talk about it. And so that's what I like with the reports. We've got things like total talk time, number of inbound calls, number of outbound calls, number of missed calls. That's a big one. That's a big one.
I think it's super helpful, even just from an employee standpoint, how they can improve. If when we track all of these metrics, hey, your talk time's a little low, maybe that's why this is translating to, some of your other metrics being lower. And I think it's helped the employees themselves to improve on all of their skill sets, kind of see their shortcomings, in addition to, how you're tracking from a high level as well. So
cool. Yeah, totally. And Neil, you could track it by day, week, month, quarter, year. Yep. The data on Streams. So it's perfect because it's like, oh, let's check out this week, and you find out somebody was off 2 days in that week. So it's not really good data. But when you go by the month, nobody's taking a whole month off. So it's really helpful, the data. So I like that. So we'll take a quick break and then get into SalesForce because I want to make sure his mic's okay because he's still having mic problems, right?
I'm still having mic problems. I think I can hear.
He's having some. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Mic issues.
Okay.
Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest out. Maybe that's what it is. All right,
I'm
we'll just keep
with
going.
My chest.
We'll just keep going. If you can hear him.
I hear myself.
You're
Maybe
like cutting
that's
in
why.
and out. I think
Maybe because it
He is
keeps
cutting in and out,
yeah.
right? Is your wire connected?
No, I think it's him. He's just talking light.
It's like maybe I talk a little light because as I talk
there you go.
louder,
That's better now.
I hear myself more.
Project.
I'm projecting, man.
No, you got to say it with the chest out, like Kevin Hart style. All right, cool. So we don't need a break. We'll talk about Salesforce. So Ian here is so Neil's our IT admin. Ian is Salesforce. He's independent. He has his own Salesforce admin license that he uses to build different Salesforce for different companies. He built our Salesforce. Ian used to work with us on a marketing team, and then one day I was complaining about our case management software, and I was talking about another legal platform. It sounds something like Spotify, but it's not. It's a Salesforce legal case management software. It sounds like Spotify, but it's not. And I don't want to give them any free advertising here. But so that product, I did an interview with them, and they were like quoting me this astronomical price, and I was like, doesn't make any sense. It's cool and all what you have, but I'm not paying that. So I was complaining about it with Ian just one day randomly, and he was like, I'm a Salesforce admin. I could do that. And I'm like, what? So for those of you who don't know Ian, he's like into sports cars. He rents out Can-Ams. What are those things? The Can-Ams?
Oh, the slingshots.
The slingshots. Yeah. I mean, he's he's into everything, man.
Also big on Roombas.
Also big on Roombas, yeah. They're spying on us. So I said, you're a Salesforce admin? Whatever. He explained it to me, talked to me about it. He's like, I could build that same thing that sounds just like Spotify. I could build something very similar on Salesforce for a fraction of the price. So I was like, all right, let's try it out. So we tried it out. It's been great. Before we had Salesforce, we had a program called Act, which got bought by a company called Sage. So it was like Act by Sage. And the first version, this is a true story, I downloaded on uTorrent, and it was bootlegged.
For trial purposes.
Test
before you buy.
Yeah, test before you buy. For how many years did I test it out? For like 3 years. And so I tested it out for like 3 years. And when we got more employees, we decided to go legit because I don't want to get sued by them. So it's beyond the statute of limitations. You guys can't catch me. So, so we had Act by Sage. It was okay. You typed in your, client info. It had different fields, which are basically text boxes. You couldn't really customize stuff. You couldn't control security. So if I had an idiot employee who came in on day one and was a total moron and typed in numbers where the client's name was supposed to be, it would accept that. Yes. And we had people do that because they accidentally clicked on the name field, deleted the name, and replaced it with like ASDF because they were bored and typing on their keyboard. So
yeah, that was a big issue we had with ACT, was users being able to delete any of the data. And
I deleted most of the data by accident one day.
I wasn't going to name anybody.
I deleted all the data. I don't know what I was doing. I was doing some kind of a report inside of it, and I hit delete, and I don't know. I was talking. I don't know what I was doing. I deleted all the data, but luckily Neil is like a backup whore. He has so many backups on top of backups.
Data hoarder.
Yes,
but yes.
Data hoarder sounds better than backup whore. So he had all the backups, but we lost the data from that one day, so we had to everybody had to come in and.
Well, one of the problems with ACT was if you had to restore data because you accidentally deleted one case, was you had to restore the entire database. So it would overwrite everything you had done since the last backup, plus it would take quite a while.
Yeah. So ACT was terrible. There was no data tracking. You couldn't even control the integrity of the fields.
Yeah,
that's what Ian always says. Integrity of the fields. We got to maintain the integrity. It's like the elections in the U.S. We got to maintain the integrity.
It's really just, maintaining that the phone number field has phone numbers, right? Not the name. And, the idea that any company scaling can kind of trust the employees for doing the right thing in terms of putting the right data into the right fields, it's not really feasible. And as we scale, we definitely need to maintain all of the data in every single field. You shouldn't be allowed to put an email address in the name field, things like that.
Yeah.
And
we have that one case manager who would always type in, "This will be a drop" in the companion field, which is if you're in a car accident, you have companions in the car. We would put their name there. They would put a lot of other things in there. Call client's mother at this phone number. It's like, no, that should go in the notes. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're talking about, maintaining the integrity of the data.
Yeah. It's really just all across the board. Like you're saying, people had the ability to delete things. That's a risk. Trying to be proactive instead of reactive, right? So let's prevent people
It's on the board.
from being, is it?
Yeah, right behind you.
I talk about it all the time in other development meetings that we have, because why are we fixing something? All right, you keep turning my mic on and off. Sorry. You're just turning it on and off. Okay.
I knew he doesn't like you.
Now we got double mics, beforehand, so we can now start being proactive and actually start resolving things before they happen. Most of the things that Neil and I see, generally speaking, Neil will really call it out. He'll see this coming from 2 weeks before, or same on my end. We see issues happening before they happen, and that's, I think, one of our main focuses in how we've been successful here is trying to identify those issues that we see coming and actually taking action on them. Versus other companies I've seen scale, they'll just kind of watch these. They'll see it, they'll know it's coming, but then they'll still stick to that reactive approach.
Sounds like Biden in Afghanistan. Is this code? Not to get political, like but damn.
Yeah, that was a nuclear meltdown. Dumpster
That's
fire.
terrible, dude. But anyways, not to get off topic. Cool. So couple of the things that I like a lot about SalesForce. One, I like the dashboards. They have these pretty little dashboards. Chad, can you, Dennis, can you throw up some dashboards on the screen from Google and just post them up on the slide, while we're talking? But they got these really nice dashboards where I can see people by department and I can see what their productivity is. So if they're in the medical records department, their number one job is to request medical records and to obtain medical records. So I can track how many requests they put. I can track how many come in. I can track how many demand letters go out. I can track so many different data points. And it's very clear to me, everyone's job is made up of certain data points. So I read a book called Measure What Matters. I don't remember the guy who wrote it, but it's a really good book, Measure What Matters. And it's all about KPIs, key performance indicators. So people's jobs are really based on key performance indicators, based on certain things. If you're a lawyer, your job for the firm is to bring money into the firm and settle cases, move cases along and get them settled. Not, I met lawyers. I have 500 cases. Oh, cool. How many of them do you resolve in a month? Ugh. It's like, okay, it just keeps snowballing. Mm-hmm. When you make it obvious to them that their job is to resolve a case and bring money in for the firm, for the client, for everybody, they're like, oh, then they start to get the bigger picture. So I can easily show them that with a nice little dashboard, which is like is it called like a pictogram?
It's like a visualized report.
Visualized report, yeah. So it's based, so I can look at the actual report if I want, but then I give access to the staff to see the dashboards, to see just the bar. It could be a bar graph or a pie chart, which are the two most common ones that we use here, and it's phenomenal. I mean, just even for the staff to see, they're comparing themselves against each other. And they're like, oh, no, I'm better than that person. And they push themselves harder. And so before we gave them access to the dashboards, they were just producing. But now it's almost like a race, like a 100-yard dash. And we do them by quarters. So we can track them by quarters. And they're all, just the other day, one of the case managers was telling me, man, this girl's like, she's on fire. I keep getting more and more cases tendered. And she keeps getting one more than me. She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm laughing all the way to the bank, right? I'm like, yeah, keep getting those cases tendered because that's your job, Whereas before they weren't focused on that. They would brag, oh, I got this tender, that tendered, whatever. But that's really what their job is. So
I'm sorry. I was going to say, and it gives
Don't let it happen again, Ian. Don't ever cut me off again.
It gives them the ability to compare themselves and maybe talk to that other employee. Hey, you're obviously getting, a few more cases tendered than me. Do you have a little trick? Because we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
And I think that's been super beneficial too. That's
Team Abe.
Team Abe.
Team Abe. All right, cool. So yeah, the dashboards are great. Neil, anything you want to add about dashboards?
Not about dashboards.
Oh, you look very smart. I was hoping for some input, but that's okay. Automation. You guys want to talk about automation? Joe Rogan podcast, Elon Musk, AI. Freaked me out. I'd never heard Elon Musk. By the way, he says Tesla, not Tesla. Tesla.
Oh my God. Also just announced yesterday that they're going to build a robot.
He said that AI is going to destroy all of humanity.
But he said they were only going to build it to where you could outrun it and in most cases overpower it. So they're not going overboard.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
But he said they're supposed to be friendly, but if you have to run, you can outrun it and you can overpower it.
But what if they get us really fat?
You mean like run? Like
yeah, it can only go like 5 miles an hour, I think was the stat.
Oh, that's what this is about. But what if the robots learn how to make a faster version of themselves?
They learn how to drive a Tesla?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a gun.
Yeah.
Or hold a gun, which can shoot a bullet a lot faster than I can. Oh my God, we're screwed. But anyways, Elon Musk said AI was going to kill us. But automation processes are kind of like the beginning of
machine learning. AI, machine learning. Those, that's one segment of this. We utilize machine learning, which is essentially very similar. It's the code version of AI to an extent. AI is more over encompassing than strictly machine learning. It's almost the precursor to AI. So we utilize machine learning all the time in our SalesForce org. generally speaking, process automation, for example, there's so many pros and cons, and that's even to an extent not really related to machine learning itself, but it is essentially a precursor. And I think that we've seen a lot of benefits on introducing, multiple pieces of process automation to the firm. I think we've reduced, or we know we've reduced a ton of manual efforts from employees. And on the pro side, we've also done that so they don't get too much, too inundated with all of these new processes. I think people that don't fully understand automation, they'll say, more automation, but they forget that there are cons to it, which is more training. Is that necessarily a con? No, but it's something that definitely needs to be thought about, because the way we've provisioned our automation and all of our different process automation scripts here is they're really something that you don't have to think about. When the users are doing their job, the automation is just here to help, rather than in other experiences I've seen where, we introduce so many different pieces of criteria that the users need to know to hit those pieces of criteria. That's not necessarily beneficial. And I think that's where we found the most success is introducing automation that, is really just kind of on the background. They don't need to know criteria. I've made sure that any criteria that the user needs to know, it's really just same following the SOP we outlined. They follow the process, and the automation will kick in when it needs to. Cool. And I think that we've seen huge benefits there. We're about to launch the questionnaire project where we're going to eliminate the duplication of efforts that we've seen with, the signups to.
Yeah. So right now, if we meet an injury client, we go out, we use DocuSign as well, but we want to do the personal touch at our firm. So we will go drive. That sounds terrible, the personal touch. But we want to have a personal approach where we go drive out there.
New podcast name?
That's not going to be the name, dude. I spent 15 minutes coming up with Legally Exhausted. We're not changing the name, all right? So we want to drive out there, meet the client. They were in a car accident. They were injured. They're hurt. They need someone in front of them to tell them, hey, everything's going to be okay. You picked the right law firm. So we want to do stuff in person. And in person means bringing a sheet of paper, 5 sheets of paper, getting them to sign it, doing all that. Ian's talking about working on a questionnaire built into SalesForce that when you type in the name in the questionnaire, it'll automatically populate into a new case field. And so right now, somebody gets in an accident, they call us, they say, hey, I want the best law firm in the world. We're like, yeah, that's us. You got the right number. We'll come out and get you. Go out, drive to them. We have offices all over Florida, so we'll meet with them in person. You like how I threw that in there nonchalantly, right? Right? Some people are like, what's nonchalantly mean? It's an SAT word. So we go out there and bring the paper back. Well, it takes the guy a day to bring the paper back to the person. We have people who have to type that paperwork into the computer. And so we would eliminate that job. You're saving jobs. You're actually destroying jobs, Ian. You're a monster. So
reallocating them to other positions.
Reallocating resources.
Reallocating resources. That's called downsizing. So we're eliminating a job of being a data entry person when the client's going to be right there. We're going to say, hey, is this your name? Is this that? Boom, type it in. And it automatically creates a new case record in Salesforce, which is going to be great. So that's pretty cool for automation.
It's also, just saving. I think it's saving everyone time. I mean,
it's a headache too, and people make mistakes, right? They spell the name wrong, and we have to go back and change it. It's not hard, but
exactly. And from the standpoint of the marketing team, they're already filling out all of the data that they would do in Salesforce, right? So we're duplicating efforts by having 2 different people do that. And then that's at the same time, we're also going to save a ton of time on the team here in office that enters all of that data, because they're going to have probably 75% of their job removed on that aspect of the data entry.
You can do other work.
But exactly. And that just allows us to reallocate them to other needs of the business. So
if you've ever worked in a law firm, there's always work to do. There's always something. As evidenced by that huge stack over there that's covered in a 10X hat and some other stuff. It's been sitting there for 6 months. Really important work that needs to be done over there. So we talked about that. I like Salesforce has a document generator. It has a million options for document generators. It has like some free ones and some paid ones. I think we decided to go for a paid one because
It's
the staff that we have. I didn't want to rely on a free app.
Yeah, I coded one. It would have been, Abe wanted the support. I know that's very important.
He coded one. Abe, I got this guy in India. We coded a document generator for you. And I said, what happens when we have about 120 employees total right now? And I'm like, who do we call when it doesn't work?
So you call me.
I call a guy in India, like,
most of the time that's what you do anyway.
I want a guy in India. Can you fix this?
That really is.
Yeah. What'd you say?
You're mostly calling India when you need support for something anyway.
Hey, listen, nothing against my Indian people. I love you guys. They're good, but I don't want to call a guy in India. I want to call a company that's like, don't worry about that. We'll help you out here. So we paid for a version. There's other free options. SalesForce, what's really cool about them is just like you have your Apple Store, they have an
app exchange.
It's called the App Exchange. Yeah. So they have, and it's an app. It's a store for all their different apps. So if you want a document generator, they have 1,000 different versions. If you want file storage, they have 1,000 different versions. Microsoft has an app in the App Exchange. All the big companies have apps in there. Streams, to go back to Streams, they said they were on, we integrate with Salesforce. Everybody will tell you, we all have a Salesforce integration. And it's like, well, what's the integration? Shit integration.
They also said that they integrate with Microsoft Active Directory, but you have to pay for an extra service in order to make that integration.
So. Well, they didn't lie there. They didn't mislead you. That wasn't a sleight of hand. Pick a card, any card. The one for $5.99 a month per user.
I think any software company that's doing like B2B is, they all have realized, at least at this point, that you need to be able to integrate with Salesforce. If you're going to scale, if you're going to appeal to large scale companies, huge companies are in Salesforce.
Yeah.
And
does Amazon use?
100%.
Yeah.
So my buddy who we've met with.
That's a selling point right there. If Jeff Bezos can do it with that beautifully bald head, Abe Ovadia wants to do it with that lustrous, thick head of hair.
Abhinav runs their Salesforce org right now.
Bro, no name calling. Shout out to Abhinav, another Indian guy, cool dude.
We love Abhinav. We love you.
Cool.
He'll see this. But large, huge companies. Apple uses Salesforce. Amazon, ADT, DoorDash, just all
Ovadia
of these
Law.
large
Ovadia Law, another big one right there.
Ovadia Law. PE firms across the space, it's seen, at least from what I've seen, is PE firms or companies that are going in to do business acquisitions. What do they want to see? Microsoft products and Salesforce. That's what they want to see from a scaling standpoint. Office 365 and really all of those pieces of a tech stack. Companies look for now, and maybe 10 years ago is different. But if anyone planned on acquiring outside investment, the first thing that any PE firm looks at now is tech stack. It didn't used to be that 10, 15 years ago, but that's one of the first things that anybody looks at. How can we integrate with this company that we're acquiring? How can we integrate them into our systems? Yeah. And more likely than not, it's going to be Salesforce, Microsoft products, Teams, things like that.
So you're saying we could sell to like some huge corporation and make sick money.
Sick cash.
Oh,
yeah.
Stacks.
PE's just blowing cash out right now. So
cool. Private equity. It took me 5 minutes to figure out what the hell PE was. Physical education?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Cool. So I like the document generator. A document generator, if you've ever worked in a law firm, is essential. I know there's some law firms out there that are stupid and use forms, Word files that they open and edit and then save as a different file, which to me is ridiculous. You have if you have the client name in Salesforce, you open a document, the name automatically populates, the date of accident populates, the case number populates. Mm-hmm. I find it so if you're in law, you know what a case style is. If any litigation document has a case style at the top, says the name of the court it's in and all that, plaintiff, defendant, case number. Why would you type that up every single time? Or even copy paste it from another document on that case is ridiculous. I've never done that. I've always just gone to the document generator, boom, pops up. It's beautiful. It's perfect every single time. It really saves you hours a day, your staff hours a day of, standard documents. Why would you do that? So it's really essential to have a document generator at any law firm. So that's what I like about Salesforce as well. And then the file storage. So Neil, you remember file storage in ACT. That was a nightmare.
What file storage?
That was a nightmare. So we had to use Windows Explorer to make folders for each case. So we had a client named John Smith, Jason Smith. We would create a folder in Windows Explorer, and then inside ACT, create a shortcut. So we'd go to ACT, go to that client's file in ACT, and then there'd be a Documents tab, and we'd open that shortcut, and it would take us to the other file. But sometimes people would, in Windows Explorer, there's no restrictions, so they would move it or delete it, or you'd find it inside of like another folder that was another case and not helpful.
And
so
the
you'd
shortcut
lose.
doesn't work.
In short, it doesn't work, and it sucks. And I think the biggest problem is new employees. They just disappear files. It's so bizarre. And then they don't say anything. They'll delete the whole thing and be like, I'm not saying anything. I don't want to get fired. And so
they can't prove I did it.
They can't prove I did it if it takes them a month to figure out where the files are. I remember somebody was moving and they copy pasted the entire directory of cases that we've had, open and closed. They copy pasted the entire directory into their personal work folder. And they were like, my computer's really slow. And Neil went over, did his little IT stuff and goes, it looks like you're copy pasting our entire directory of cases into your personal work folder. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't know how to stop that. It's like, why do you create the problem and then come bother me? Neil's favorite thing that he did about 2 months ago was create a ticket system.
Oh boy.
He created a ticket system that was like his final FU to everybody. Because
Don't call me.
Don't
text me.
Yeah.
Don't even email me.
Poor Neil.
Submit
Poor
a
Neil.
ticket.
The women in the office. We're 90% women here. It's mostly it's weird. There's 3 guys in the office, and we're on the podcast, right? There's more than 3 guys here, but we have most of the office. I would say is majority women employees, female employees, and Neil is a stud. He's a very good looking guy.
Now we're getting off topic again.
Now we're getting off topic, but they would text him on his personal cell phone, message him on streams, send him an email, and then call him and ask him why he's not getting to fix their problem, which they created on their own 9 times out of 10. And he's like, so now he created this ticket system where you go to a website and you fill out a ticket, and his life has gotten so much easier.
Yes.
So he's very happy with the ticket system. We should have done a whole thing on the ticket system here and had the office watch it.
Next podcast.
Next one.
Next podcast.
Yeah. So
I can show you all of Ian's response times.
oh, are they really bad?
They could use improvement.
Yeah.
working on it.
What's the data on that? We're tracking that data?
We have data.
Oh, we have data.
We
have data.
Documentation. I mean, but that's a key with the
That's another
ticket
podcast.
system.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. Ian's shortfalls. A real victim of ADD here.
So are you.
Hey,
You might
whatever,
be
man.
worse.
I got my
It
little
might be
fidget.
worse.
I got my little fidget spinner here. It's a water bottle cap. I'm playing with this thing the whole time.
That must mean we're out of stuff to talk about.
We're out of stuff. No, the last thing I think we need to talk about before we get on to the lobster roll section.
Okay.
We have a to-do here, and Neil decided to type in lobster rolls ? I think he's getting hungry. But is the SSO integration. So single sign-on,
Yes.
SSO.
Yes, it's integrated with Active Directory. So when I make someone an account in a Microsoft Active Directory, I can also provision them an account in Salesforce at the same time, and they don't need a password to sign into Salesforce. The great thing about that is they can only access Salesforce from a device that they have access to access their Microsoft account.
That was a tongue
So
twister.
it prevents them from accessing all of that crucial data somewhere where they're not supposed to be.
Yeah. If Chad's going to keep interrupting, we're going to have to get him a mic. Sorry. I know. So single sign-on, basically when we onboard an employee, you have to create them, a year ago, you'd have to create them an account in Microsoft Office. You'd have to create them an account in Act when we used Act or Salesforce. You'd have to create them an account in Streams. What else do we use? Is that it? Those are the 3 big softwares.
Automated provisioning's definitely been super beneficial.
So now you just create one, and it's automatically in each thing. It's set up.
Yep.
Single sign on.
I think the bigger gain for like the company perspective is security.
It's not just about making it easier to create the accounts.
Oh, I thought it was about reducing the number of phone calls you get. I
a
forgot
bonus.
my password.
That's helpful.
Not my
this
problem.
helps that. This is a pro for that. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, there's a ton of pros across the board. But I think the biggest improvement that we've seen on the IT side is really just consolidating their access. It's consolidated through Office 365, which Neil controls like the Great Wall of China. So they're not getting in. Then they can't get into Salesforce. We don't have to enforce like MFA or 2-factor on Salesforce because we already do
MFA, multi-factor
authentication. Okay. We don't have to do those things now. We don't have to reset Salesforce passwords because it is a security risk to have a Salesforce password and an Office password because you could get compromised on both ends.
Yeah.
At this point, from a security standpoint, I don't know what would be worse. Somebody, a hacker accessing Salesforce or a hacker accessing Office. So now we've at least consolidated that into one, and it's much more secure this way. So
yeah, I just had a great idea for you, Neil.
Oh boy.
I want you to get a red pill and a blue pill. I want you to put it in desks of people that bother you because they forgot their password. I want you to put it in their desk underneath something. So when they call you, you tell them, they're like, I forgot my password. What do I do? Go in your drawer. On the middle drawer, underneath the yellow notepad, there's a red pill or a blue pill. I want you to choose which one you take. Just fuck with them.
We can cut that part out too.
That was insane. That's my ADD the whole time. I was thinking about that. I'm like, wait, red pill, blue pill. Oh my God! It's now we can get into the mandatory vaccination talks because the employer is telling them to take a red pill or a blue pill. It's crazy.
Apparently,
great
it's
segue.
Mandatory vaccinations, that's legal apparently.
And that's the podcast.
So on that wonderful note, did we cover everything you guys want to talk about as far as Salesforce goes?
I think we covered everything on this list and more.
And more. Yeah, the red pill, blue pill thing was fun for me. So, all right, I think we're good. That's our first podcast for Legally Exhausted. We're good?
I thought it was personal touch.
I'm exhausted.
No, we're not doing personal. The personal touch. All right, I think we're good. Chad, roll the outro music. We're done. All right, take care. That was funny.
There we go.
All right, are we good? That's funny.